So I would like to showcase what SprintLoop should actually be like for the user right now. So we're going to pop in here, open the application. We still have our animated logo and everything that we can skip. However, I'm not showing the new user interface because I removed the walkthrough, so there is no difference between signing in and signing up to a new user, because that walkthrough simply just created so many issues that made the application borderline unfunctional. And I would like to show what the app should actually be like right now. So as you can see, I'm signed into two different accounts here on both iPhone mirroring and my emulator. And what I would like to do is, so I do have here we go. I would like to try and, actually, yeah. So here, let me slow down a little bit. So here we have our RAG features, at least one of them. We have our Discover Circles, which looks into the circles you're currently in, plus the recent sprints you have done, and it generates circles that you would be interested in. Since right now, this account is actually not in any circles whatsoever, it will showcase a bunch of different ones, which we can actually fix. Nope, autocorrect is not great here. Here we go. We can send a friend request there real quick. And we should be able, there we go. Let's accept this friend request, and we can now that both of these accounts are friends, we can add them to showcase the functionality between public and private circles. For example, we can discover circles here. We can see that there's a lot of public ones that are all here that can be seen. But however, since this one here that was there is not marked as public, this one cannot be found at all. But we can still add, friends that we are currently with, invite them to a circle. We sent an invitation now. We would be able to come back over here and accept this invite. And as you can see, we now have access to this circle. We do have real-time messaging, so hello will show up on both these, and I can just reply howdy, and everything still works there. We have read receipts. We showcase the names, the avatars of people responding, but that is just how you would be able to add friends you have to private circles. But let's take a look at public circles now, which would be the main focus of the app. As you can see here that it does support real-time messaging here without actually having to be inside of the application, and we still have it in this chat as well. But now for the actual content of the application, as you can see, the sprint screen has had some renovations, so that way it will be able to display both the communities you can start a sprint in and your recent sprints without sacrificing the legibility of them. As you can see previously, I was trying to split the screen in half to try and showcase both, which was simply not an efficient way to display that information to the user. But this is, in my opinion, now fixed, and we can look at, for example, so periodic table, if we're going to create a sprint and we want to know elements, and we can add another goal. We also want to know trends on the periodic table as well. We can choose our sprint duration as per normal with the number of quiz questions. We can just start with whatever the default is, which is assigned, which even though you can modify these here, the circle that you're starting a sprint from can choose default values for these, which is why it's showcasing this here. But we can start the sprint and we can add a thumbnail photo for it. This would work on an actual phone, but since this is all running on my laptop, that is why this is not working the same way. But I will create that sprint. It shows up here in real time. And you can see here, a periodic table, it shows you the goals, who made it, what circle is made from, a live counter. I can be able to end it or join it, which would take me directly into this chat. But Now what the user, other users in the chat in the circle can do is click this join sprints button, and now allow access to camera, yes. Again, yeah, just because it's not available on Mac. But I can create an identical sprint, there we go, which, as you can see here, creates a thread within that circle, so it prevents clutter, and we have real-time messaging support here as well. Now we can come back over to that circle we just created it in, and you can see it has 2 replies, and not focused on the right one, there we go. So testing, and also the counter goes up in real time as well. You can see how many messages there are and how many people are replying. And just again, showcasing that it applies on multiple clients. Click hi, type hi, shows up here and everything. And now we can come over back to our sprints tab, and we can end the sprint here. We can add a ending photo if we would like, but we will skip it here. And boom, sprint complete, periodic table, what the duration was, and we can take our quiz. As you can see here, we have how many questions there are, but right now it doesn't, I'm just gonna be picking things at random because I don't care about getting a perfect score, as we can see. But so quiz complete, we can look at our results here, and it was not very good for picking things at random. Pretty statistically, this is like the most statistical response, picking things at random. But you can see which questions in specific we got right versus wrong and what the actual right answer was. But what we are also able to do is another RAG feature is viewing a concept map of this. And what I mean of this is the sprint that we did, which takes into account the circle. It was originated from the name of the sprint and the goals that a user had set in them. And as you can see, this is very clearly hard to read. But what we can do is it has support for going onto landscape. It does. You can also pinch in and zoom, but the problem is I can't showcase this on the emulator, and the iPhone mirroring does not have support for rotating the phone sideways, but you are able to zoom in on this however you would like, and you can see roughly, it says like periodic table up here. There's like understanding the layout, and it shows here every single thing that's related to that, and the size of these circles, these elements, are proportional to the importance and similarity to the actual topic. But now, I figured this was a good way to show this to the user because they could see the varying degrees of importance and significance that these topics may have, which they could use that to choose how to allocate their time studying on topics. But let's get this back into a portrait position. But if that's too hard to read, which I can understand why that would be, we do have this text button up here, which will translate that into a much more digestible format, which may not have the same visual impact. So it's a different way to consume the same type of information depending on user preferences. And that is really the main functionality so far. There is support for streaks, but in order to do that, you need to not cancel a sprint. You need to let it run through its entirety. It would need to be at least 20 minutes, and you would need to score over 90% on the quiz, while also having 10 questions for that quiz as well. Then once you do that, you get one additional day added to your streak. And after every 7 consecutive days of getting your streak, you get something that's called a freeze token, which you can use to halt if you are not able to continue your streak for a day. You can use a freeze token to prevent your streak from being lost. And you can apply it retroactively, but only for not indefinitely though. You would only have a grace period of about an hour before your streak is lost. And obviously, your streak, you do not get a freeze token if you use, for example, you go an entire day without adding one to your streak because you use a freeze token every single day. You don't get another token for that. You would have to actively increase your streak every day for a week. But that is the current the current state of the app. We also can come up here to show how to create a circle. We have our circle name, our visibility of it. Again, I showed here the sprint duration, when photos would expire, which is when they'll be deleted both from the chat, because we still do have the ephemeral nature where messages are deleted every day. You can have a separate option for photos if you would like, but you can choose if members within that circle are able to invite other people, which then you can modify these changes at any given time, which I can show here. You saw earlier when I was adding someone, but you go to the settings button. Again, you can at any point change the visibility of it, your own notifications, the sprint duration, how many minutes it takes for a photo to expire, and you can click this update button right there. That is for the most part actually is all the functionality of the app at this time. I did want to have that walkthrough because this can be very difficult to understand just jumping right into it. But since I was not able to get that to work, I figured that this later submission would be more worthwhile. So I hope that this was a much more engaging and much more informative demo and presentation than the previous one was. And I believe that this was a much better presentation myself.